Let's take just a brief moment and make sure we know the people sitting around us. Turn to them, introduce yourself if you don't. Say, hi, it's nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. Just for a moment. It was really hard to write a sermon this week. We were taught in school, took a homiletics class, writing and giving Divrei Torah, giving sermons in my last year, and we were taught to end with nechemta, to end with comfort. Bring the people down, our teacher said, but make sure to bring them back up a little bit, and to not end a sermon in the pit. And it was hard to figure out what the nechemta would be this week. So that's where I'm starting from. Take your son, God says in the Torah reading, your favorite one, the one who you love, Isaac. Go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering. It sounds like a prank. It sounds like less than a prank. Like God is playing a game, trying to come up with the most ridiculous suggestion, something no one in their right mind would consider, much less do. And yet, as we read, early the next morning, Abraham prepared his donkeys and took with him 2 servants and his son Isaac. One of the puzzles of the Torah is why Abraham agreed to sacrifice his son. How he could so quickly bind his favored one, the one he loved, and prepare to slaughter him on the altar. Vayikra elav malach Adonai min hashamayim vayomer Avraham, Avraham. I've always read the end of the story as if God is freaking out. An angel of God cried from the heavens saying, Avraham, Avraham, I didn't mean it. I didn't think you would actually do it, you crazy son of a gun. The traditional interpretation of Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac, is that Avraham had so much emunah, so much faith. His faith in God was so strong that he did what God wanted, no questions asked. We're taught by this line of thinking, by this interpretation, that we should only hope to have unwavering faith like Avraham. I think this is a bad take. There should not be a reward for blind faith. But this explanation of the Akedah suggests that it is pious, laudable, to follow what we understand to be God's will, with no question or critical thinking. This understanding, I believe, is specifically un-Jewish. We're not a people who blindly follow anyone's word. We are a questioning, challenging people. In which case, we need a different explanation or teaching to take from the story of the Akedah. It seems to me that the Akedah is a deviation, a divergence for Avraham. It's a split from who we know him to be, from who we expect him to be. The Parsha opened today with a different story, a different interaction between Avraham and God, which is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. God said, the outrage of Sodom and Amorah is so great, and their sins are so grave. Za'akat Sodom va'Amorah ki rabba, v'chatatam ki chovda me'od. The Torah portion opened with God frustrated with the sinning people, planning to destroy them all. Enter Avraham, who challenges God and says, will you sweep away the innocent along with the guilty? Ha'af tispet tzadik im rasha. In this instance, God makes a declaration, and Avraham does not blindly follow. He doesn't follow at all. There's a whole genre of biblical scholarship, biblical literature called arguing with God, and it originates in this moment, in this interaction between Avraham and God. The verse says, Vayigash Avraham. Avraham stepped up. Avraham came forward. Faced with the information that God was planning on wiping out an entire city based on the sins, based on the actions of a few, Avraham instinctively stepped up and advocated on their behalf. What if there are 50 righteous people in the city, Abraham says? Will you destroy it then? What if there are 40? Chalila lecha me'asot kadavar hazeh. Far be it, Abraham says, far be it from you to do something like this. Chalila lecha. What if there are 10 righteous people? Will you destroy the land if there are but 10 righteous people in it? And God says, no, I will not. Now we know how that story ends because we finished the Torah reading for today. But the point is that the Avraham in this story of Sodom and Gomorrah is completely different than the Avraham a few chapters later in the Akedah. In chapter 18, Avraham stands up to God with strongly worded reaction. Chalila lecha, how dare you? He says to God. He challenges God, arguing on behalf of his innocent neighbors. By chapter 22, God gets him to nearly sacrifice his son with very little effort, with no pushback. Why? What is the reason for two different Avrahams? Rabbi Jackson Mercer wrote an essay on this parsha a few years ago. And he says, we find ourselves many times zooming too far out, too large scale in thinking about how we can fix the world. In a society where making a difference is so vital in creating a meaningful life, the desire to help as many people as possible is a draw for most people. We oftentimes act like Avraham, speaking on behalf of entire populations to help them or to defend them, sometimes at the expense of what is right in front of us. It's easy to zoom too far out, to get lost in thinking about how to fix the world, and forget about the people and the needs that are right in front of us, in our homes, in our community, in our city. And this is a problem many of our neighbors are currently having. In what many may describe as compassion and pursuit of justice, we are surrounded today by anti-Israel sentiments, which have turned into anti-Jewish words and actions. Peace for Palestinians, safety, security for Palestinians, inarguably, undoubtedly noble concepts and important efforts, have turned people all around the world into Avraham, taking up a cause focused on saving a people, living out supposedly what they consider their values, and failing to remember the humanity of their Jewish neighbors. Casting aside, binding, endangering those who are right in front of them. In a society where making a difference is so vital in creating a meaningful life, they have taken up the cause, and out of ignorance or malice or some mix of both, they have forgotten Isaac right in front of them. Their Jewish friends, classmates, neighbors, and colleagues. They have made us the enemy, put us in danger because they think that's what faith is. This is not a conversation about critique of Israel or its government, and it's not even about anti-Zionism. This is real anti-Semitism happening around the world and in our community, and it's scary, and it's angering. It's scary to think about being yelled at or threatened because we are visibly Jewish, to worry about being accosted at school or at the grocery store, running errands, just going about our day-to-day lives. It's upsetting and it's maddening that we have to find ways to tell our kids and our students that there are people who wish us harm because of who we are, because of our practice, because of the sign in our front yard. And a lot of this is not new for our people, but it feels harder and more urgent now. And I feel scared and confused, sickened, and I feel isolated. I feel abandoned by friends, organizations, social media influencers who think they're Avraham standing up for the righteous and the innocent, when in fact they're Avraham abandoning Isaac, abandoning those who have stood by them, endangering those around them. It's hard to be a Jew right now, to look around and wonder where are our allies. The parsha ends, and there's no real teshuvah or tikkun, no repair done between Abraham and Yitzchak. It ends with question marks. There's no record of Isaac talking to Abraham again. But Isaac does go on to lead a full, successful life. In next week's Parsha, Isaac finds love and gets married. After that, he becomes a father to Yaakov and Esau. These are spoilers, but come back next week anyway. Isaac's family and his household grow, and he finds support and love and community. And in this, perhaps there's a little glimmer of the nechemta, of the comfort that I'm so desperately seeking. It's hard out there right now. I don't have any answers or any wisdom to share about that. But I pray that we can continue to find support, love, and meaning in community, in the people around us, in gathering and praying, learning, celebrating, singing, eating together, and in the grieving, and in the worrying, and in the processing, in all those moments when we can be together. This is where I find comfort and light. The people of Israel are alive and well. Am Yisrael Chai, we say. And even though we may have to wait, like Isaac, for one Parsha to end and a new one to begin, we'll persevere, and I hope and I pray we will continue to find strength in each other, in being together. Shabbat Shalom.